You're really old. How about them Cowboys?
Well. My God, my emotions are high right now watching the first three episodes of the Netflix series based on Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys called America's Team, the Gambler and his Cowboys. I wasn't going to do a video about it. I texted my buddy Mike Tagg. Um, I'm going through a lot of emotions here. It really was only through the first three episodes. We haven't gotten to the Super Bowl, but let's make no mistake that a championship game at Candlestick Park against the 49ers was the championship. Football back then was different, okay? I don't care how talented a team is nowadays. Before the salary cap, the amount of talent that it took, and yet still there was unbelievable football teams in the league. The Eagles were an absolute beast. Okay? The Eagles were an absolute beast of a football team, especially on defense. Okay? I lived through it. Let's stop it there. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay? Let's go back to the beginning for game time, Brian. Again, I wasn't going to do a video. I have nothing written down. I just saw the first three episodes and I need to have a video. Wearing the old school hat. Come on now. Um, First and foremost, we have absolutely lost our way as Cowboys. I know Eagle fans and Bang Bang 49er fans, they laugh. They revel in it. And it's sport, guys. It's not. We say it's not life and death, but in the end, it is kind of life and death. And what do you mean by that, game time? Nobody's dying here. I, I understand what you're saying. My brother, who passed away at the age of 29, saw the Super Bowl following that 92 championship game. Okay. He saw the Cowboys win. And then in that spring, he passed away. He saw one of the Super Bowls. Again, I have Eagle fans who their fathers and grandfathers who went all their life without seeing a Super Bowl championship. They won with Nick Foles. They won their first Super Bowl, and they have since passed away. And again, in a way, it is life and death. I can't tell a young fan how to feel regarding Jerry Jones. I have nothing for you. The Kelly Canine, I understand what you are talking about. I see it. I see Twitter. My son, Kelly, is 21. He's my youngest. He's never seen a real winner. A real winner. There's a lot of fake winners, right? Meaning you win games, you win 12-win seasons, three straight 12-win seasons. Man, he's never seen a winner. He's never seen a winner. Now, let's go back to the beginning. I was born in 1971. Yeah, I'm going to date myself. My father, believe it or not, my heritage comes from Arkansas. He was born in Oklahoma in a house that you could see through the walls. Poor. My father was poor. My father's father passed away at the age of 5. He relocated to Dallas, Texas, right? The rest is history. He was a military man. My uncle owned the first franchised 7-Eleven in Dallas, Texas. Not 7-Eleven. He opened the first franchise in Dallas, Texas. I got family in Plano there today. My mother was a legal secretary in Washington, D.C. My father was stationed at Fort Belvoir, just outside of Washington, D.C. My mother was a South Philly girl. They met, the rest is history, okay? Relocated like a lot of couples did back in the day. They went over the bridge, South Jersey, get away from the hustle and bustle of the city. We live out in a rural area, kind of in between Atlantic City and Philly, kind of a nice little tucked away area. I've always been a Cowboy fan. I was going through some of my pictures, and I will share them. Uh, I will put them on my community tab. Again, I'm in a onesie. I got bikes for Christmas. Now, we always supported the local teams. We just never supported the Eagles because my father, it was ingrained. It's all I ever knew. But I was born in 71, so I was too young to really. I don't remember, the Ice Bowl, right? I don't remember. I remember going to elementary school and seeing the Miami Dolphins. Uh, and like when you were in elementary school, you get the books, the illustrated books, and we'd be looking. Oh, we beat. I was already a diehard Cowboy fan, but I don't remember watching it. I was too young. When we beat Craig Morton and the Broncos in the Super Bowl, don't remember that. I know about it because of them books. I remember the Dolphins because of them books. My first experience as a Cowboy fan, and it's pretty embarrassing, but I was young. I didn't know any better. Losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Super Bowl. That was my first experience. Now, mind you, I live in South Jersey where the 80s, you know, was not a good time. We saw 1980, we saw the local team, the Eagles, get to the Super Bowl against the Raiders, right? We remember that. But the 80s were the decade of the 49ers. They were. That catch, as it was so eloquently showed in the uh I don't know if it was episode 1 or 2 of this America's Team, the Gambler and the Cowboys. The catch stopped the Dallas dynasty of Roger Staubach and Tom Landry. It stopped it, right? That was done. I mean, it was over then. Tom Landry and the Cowboys, before we know it, was over, right? So I came in at the tail end of the success of the 70s, and I saw the 49ers steal it and run with the ball in the 80s to become the team of the 80s, the San Francisco 49ers. Dwight Clark, God rest his soul, he caught it. It's called the catch against Everson Walls in the back of the end zone, and they just took it from there. They took it from there. Uh, Again, the 80s were not great for the Cowboys, right? They were not. Towards the end of the 80s, Tom Landry was forgetting plays. Again, he was forgetting plays. He he wasn't he lost his edge as a football coach. I remember this is where, okay, you talk in 1988, I was a junior in high school. I had been a Cowboy fan. I lived through the success of the Eagles, albeit losing in the Super Bowl. They got to it in 80. And then we saw the Niners, right? We saw the Niners. Boom, boom. The Niners were a machine following the catch. They took the ball, and it was like I missed something. It's like, okay, I heard about Dallas winning. We were close. Niners took it from us. And now we enter the 86, 87, 88, right? Bad football. Bad football. The talent had left. We were hanging on by a thread. There was no urgency. Watch the episodes. I I'm gonna make my his son watch the episode, not because of Jerry Jones. We all know that Jerry Jones has lost his way. We know that. This isn't about Jerry Jones. This is about reconnecting with the football team that I love and looking back and to see how far football has deteriorated from that point. And what are you saying, Brian? Well, again, you got to put yourself in there. You are not allowed, per the rules, to put the type of talent. I mean, these teams that are playing now, yes, they're talented. They would be no match for the 49ers of the 80s or the 92, 93 Cowboys team. Why? Because they had people at every position. I mean, we're just the local team here coming off a Super Bowl. It's a different game. The Eagles, okay? The Eagles that lost to Dallas in 90 91 playoffs? 91 playoffs? I think, yeah. Led by Randall Cunningham, would beat the living crap out of any of the teams right now. It's just a different game. You were allowed to amass the talent if you had the money, or or if you wanted to go to the USFL and buy talent. Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Clyde Simmons. It just goes on and on. Watching this really touched the nerve because we are far from that. Meaning, the NFL in general, but the Cowboys, yeah, specifically, are far from where we once were. Um, but as you get into the late '80s, and they cover it, Jerry buys the team. I did not know this. This is a very, very interesting. At the age of 28, this is an interesting story. At the age of 28, Jerry Jones tried to uh, be a part of a group to buy the San Diego Chargers. Did not know that. I know he had tried to buy them, but I didn't know the story behind it. He set up a meeting with the head of the Teamsters back then. One Jimmy Hoffa, yes, it's amazing. One Jimmy Hoffa, and he could have bought the Chargers. Some say he should have, right? But I think we need to just put that aside. And Jerry Jones's father said, absolutely not. You are not going to do business with Jimmy Hoffa. Everybody knew who Jimmy Hoffa was. People were coming up dead. If you owed him money, what would happen? What would happen? Long story short, Jerry did not go into business with Jimmy Hoffa. The Klein family bought the Chargers. The rest is history. That is at the age of 28. Jerry bought the Cowboys at the age of 46. It's kind of freaky. Like 7 years ago for me. You know what I'm saying? Going on 8 in 3 days. um, very, very crazy. Interesting story. But he scrapes it up. He hits on a well, right? He hits oil. He dumps all of his money, I think like $300,000 into this one oil derrick, and he struck gold, literally. He pulled out $100 million worth of oil out of this one derrick that he dumped all of his money into, and he had $100 million. He instantly turned that $100 million over the course of the next year, bought the Cowboys. There was another interesting story. Um, he met with the owner of the Cowboys at the time, who his name is who the hell am I thinking? Bum Bright. I was gonna look it up, but it came to me. Bum Bright owned the Cowboys, and he basically agreed. They were haggling over like $300,000. Okay, mind you, Jerry had the $100 million from what he pulled out of the ground. He called his family and says, "I want to buy the Cowboys." Again, mind you, they were losing money at a record pace. I need everybody involved. We're talking Charlotte. We're talking Steven. We're talking Jerry Jr. And his father thought he was crazy. Um, but you know, he he sat down with Bum Bray and they were fighting and fighting, and they flipped a coin for $300,000. I think Jerry wanted it for 1.2, 120. Bum Bray won the coin toss. Jerry had to finance another 300,000. They bought the Cowboys for $150 million, roughly. Um, and then he came in, and the first thing he does, it had to be done, but it was not good. It wasn't good how it played out. He fired Tom Landry, right? Tom Landry, again, we go back. Tom Landry was a legend in Dallas. He was the face of the franchise, the only coach that had ever coached the Cowboys. Again, I remember this. I remember this. I was a young teenager at the time. And it was a little different for me than my brother, who was 7 years older, who had lived through and he remembers the Super Bowl wins under Landry. And, you know, it wasn't so much of a shock. I was excited about a change because of what I had been through. Again, I hadn't seen a winner, right? You read about it. I remember being heartbroken. This is why I always say if you get to the Super Bowl, you have to win it. I say that to my Eagle people because I remember being uh, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, I was born in 71. So 76, 77, 79. I remember how I felt as a kid. I just do. Uh, it'll never leave me. Like until the day that I die, my brother passed away. We buried him with a signed football. Maybe not the smartest thing, but looking back, but we were diehard fans back in. I mean, I'm still a diehard fan. If I look back and say, wow, it'd be cool if he was alive to kind of, he's the one that got me into football, to be a part of the YouTube channel and just to be able to talk about the NFL and the Cowboys that we love, right? So, you know, he scrapes up the money and he buys the Cowboys. He fires Tom Landry. He meets with Jimmy Johnson, who he had won a championship, I believe, in 1965 with the University of Arkansas. Uh, they were friends. They were the best of friends. And he told Jimmy, who had just won a national championship at the University of Miami, that I might be buying the Cowboys next year. Right? I did not know, and we're going to fast forward a little bit. The Dallas Cowboys under Tom Landry drafted Michael Irvin, right? And Michael had a conversation with Jimmy while he was on the Cowboys, and Jimmy was at the University of Miami. And Jimmy said, my friend might be buying the Cowboys. Um, just keep your head up, because Dallas was horrible. I'm coming to Dallas, right? And that's what happened. The firestorm that Jerry walked into, he was in debt for the 2 years of owning the Cowboys. He was losing $30,000 a month. And that's back then. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. Again, he struck gold. I was telling Mike Tag, thank God for Jimmy Johnson. He struck gold. Jimmy Johnson was one of a kind. He was. Now, we had won Super Bowls as a Cowboys organization before Jerry. Then we lost our way. I I kind of think that just to pop to present day right now, I think Jerry has lost his way like Tom Landry lost his way. Tom Landry, I don't know if the game had passed him by, right? It did. I don't like how the Tom Landry was let go, but he was let go. And, you know, um, and the players that were on interesting story. Michael Irvin, right? Michael Irvin had a relationship with Jimmy Johnson like no other. When Jimmy came in, took over the team, we all know, and they cut it out of the Netflix series, that Steve Walsh was in 1989 won the only game that the Cowboys won. That was, and I knew that, but a lot of people, they were 1-15. Yeah, well, Aikman was out. Steve Walsh won the one game, and it was rough. And then in year two, Dallas went 7-9, right? But Michael Irvin went to Jimmy and said, "You got to get rid of this guy. You got to get rid of this guy. You got to get rid of this guy." Um, you know, it. You literally had to change the culture, right? The culture had to be changed. We're hearing a lot about culture now regarding the Cowboys. Um, But episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 really, really was incredible. Now, we knew the story of Jerry, right? He literally did scrape up the money, and he could have lost it all. I get that part. I do. Um, I still don't believe we're, the same, Jerry. Even though you leveraged it all, it could have gone like that. I get that. But the average person can't scrape up 100 million or be in a position to just let $300,000 roll into an oil derrick. Incredible story. It really is. Then you see the transformation of episode 1 to episode 2, right? Dallas goes from the 1-15 it to 7-9. And then they win 11 games. But you have to remember that there was unbelievably good teams back then. The Eagles were unbelievably good. They would beat the hell out of us every year. Now they didn't win a Super Bowl, but still they would beat the living crap out of us. The Aikman game in Dallas, where Troy was sacked 11 times. That's why when I see the blasphemy that people want to look at stats regarding Troy Aikman, just watch the damn Netflix series if you don't want to take the time to learn about Troy Aikman and what he was made of and what Jimmy Johnson pulled out of him. That's what made Jimmy Johnson such a great coach. Jimmy was able to pull out from each player what you needed to be successful. And thank God for the playmaker, Michael Irvin. Without the playmaker, Michael Irvin, this all don't come together. It does not come together. I don't care what anybody says. Michael Irvin was the heartbeat of that team. Did we always agree with Michael? No. Michael Statham is saying do stupid stuff? Yes. But make no mistake, the bond that Michael had with Troy, and then when we went, and this was incredible. Dallas went from 1-15 to 7-9 to 11. This was the year that Aikman got hurt. 11-5. Aikman gets hurt against the Washington Redskins. Okay, physical football game. His knee. It wasn't an ACL, but it was like a hyperextension of his knee. It was bad. Enter Steve Berline, who doesn't lose a game for the next 6 or 7 games, right? Steve Berline gets the start against the Chicago Bears. Wins. Aikman thinks he's going to start, right? He's been out for half of the year. Berline has done nothing but win. Jimmy Johnson starts Berline again with a healthy Aikman on the sideline in Detroit. Wayne Fonts, unbelievable Detroit Lion football team. Just real quick, if you're a Lion fan who has never won a Super Bowl, we sit there and argue with some of these trolls regarding the Cowboys. The Detroit Lions had unbelievable football teams throughout their history and do not have one Super Bowl. So please save your breath with the Super Bowls in the 30 years. Trust me, it hurts. But make no mistake, the Detroit Lions, if you're a fan of the Detroit Lions, you ain't living too good these days. I mean, you have a good football team, but you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Long story short, the Detroit Lions thumped the Dallas Cowboys in a divisional round playoff game. Detroit goes and chokes, right? As they always do. Sorry, Detroit, but you've had many talented teams. They brought in Aikman for mop-up duty. Mop-up duty in a divisional round playoff game in Detroit. He gets absolutely destroyed. Dallas gets blown out. Absolutely blown out. 38-6. 38-6. 1991 NFC divisional playoff game. Marked the Lions' first playoff win in a Super Bowl era. Lions, led by quarterback Eric Kramer and running back Barry Sanders, dominated the game, despite having a talented roster of players like Aikman, Emmett. Yeah, 38-6. We got thumped, okay? So that's year 3 of Jimmy Johnson. 1-15, 7-9. I believe Dallas won 11 games that year. Aikman gets hurt. Now you got to look at the mindset of the Cowboys. And Jimmy Johnson's like, I mean, he doesn't know if Aikman's the guy. Talented, he's the guy, but mentally, does he want to win enough? Aikman was a quiet guy, right? Aikman was a quiet leader. Um, could you imagine being healthy, living through the unbelievable, horrible years as a rookie? Aikman was so upset. He's telling his agent, "You need to get me out of here. You need to trade me. I need to be out of Dallas." This is a true story. It's in the Netflix. I remember a little bit of it, but to be reminded that Aikman wanted out of Dallas when Jimmy did that. And you can't blame Jimmy, right? Because Steve Berline was a outgoing, more of a vocal leader, right? Aikman was just a silent like assassin. I'm so tired of people criticizing Troy Aikman because of the stats and this and that. There's one fan base that could tell you everything, and I believe respect Aikman more than most. Not the Cowboys. A lot of the younger Cowboy fans don't know what they don't know. They don't know what Troy Aikman was. The Eagle fans, and I say, well, the Eagle fans, what are you talking about? Well, Eagles fans, they killed Aikman. Nowadays, a guy like Troy Aikman would never survive. In this media era, Aikman watched Steve Berline take his team to the playoffs and lose. Now, amongst all this, I did not know the Herschel Walker deal, right? I did not know. Out of sight, out of mind, I guess. Herschel Walker, right? Dallas had a horrible opening season at 1-15. Herschel Walker was then used to trade for 5 players. That's what the trade was. Herschel Walker for 5 players. And this was the deal. In 1989, Herschel Walker was traded from the Dallas Cowboys to the Minnesota Vikings. They received 5 players. Linebacker Jesse Solomon. Good player. Cowboys received Jesse Solomon, linebacker David Howard, the cornerback Isaac Holt. Love Isaac Holt. Running back Darren Nelson. I think he was a local kid. Put in the comments. Was he Temple? I'm not sure. I don't know why I'm thinking Temple. And defensive end Alex Stewart. Herschel Walker was traded for those 5 players. The trade also included a substantial number of draft picks going forward. But the difference was Jerry put in the contract that if any one of those guys weren't on the team, he would get another pick. So Dallas proceeded, and they let the Vikings know, and the Vikings were like, "You're not going to do that." Jimmy Johnson went to Jerry Jones and said, "We want to trade these players." They proceeded to trade 4 of the 5 players. Maybe all 5. I think Isaac Holt came back. But they traded all 5 players and got 5 more draft picks. I never really remembered that part of the story, that they let go everything they got for Herschel Walker to have the right to draft 5 players. That was incredible. Absolutely incredible. The rest is history. They went and they drafted a lot of talented players. They did. They drafted a lot of talented players, but obviously they traded up from 21 to 17 with the Pittsburgh Steelers to draft Emmitt Smith. The man, the myth, the legend, the funky dresser. I remember meeting Emmitt as a rookie. If all my Eagle people know, me and my brother went to the game. We stayed at the Hershey Hotel. We found out where the Cowboys were staying to play the Birds at the Vet. We stayed at the Hershey Hotel. My brother was a big dude. So people thought he was a football player. So it was kind of cool, until they realized, nah, he's not a football player. But I remember this is the difference between now and then, the access to the players that we had. I remember being in an elevator with a little dude. Obviously I was 81, 9. I was 20. I think I had just turned 20 or 21. I may have been 20 because I remember my brother bought me, maybe I was 20. The old Hershey Hotel. If you know, you know. Um, and it was a young rookie Emmett Smith wearing a weird hat. He had a vest on, kind of looked like what he looked in the Netflix series with the mustard pants and the black vest with the polka dot. That was the deal, man. MC Hammer and all that. That was what it was back in the day. Um, man, like my time does fly, but I didn't remember that Dallas had the option to cut those players and get even more picks. So it was a haul. That'll never happen again. You'll never be able to get a player, but just with the money involved and the guaranteed money, and you'll never see that again. But that's what laid the groundwork with Jimmy Johnson um, to get where they got now. So anyway, back to current day, meaning at the time, they lose in year 3 of the new regime. Aikman is looking at his future. He wants out. He doesn't know where he fits. He's brought in a divisional playoff game where he gets absolutely creamed. They lose 38-6 to the Detroit Lions. And Jimmy Johnson, again, does what Jimmy Johnson does. He coaches him up. And that next year was the year. No, I didn't see the Super Bowl. I remember the Super Bowl. But make no mistake about it, the Super Bowl was in Candlestick Park that Sunday, that muddy Sunday. It was kind of neat because in the episode, Jerry's looking outside of Candlestick and he sees an oil well that he used to work on. And it's just weird how it's come in full circle. Again, we're only going to cover the first 3 episodes today, but they walk you through the championship game, right? And people forget how good the league was, how good the Eagles were, how good uh, there was a lot of really good football teams. A lot. I mean, to have an 11-win record, and the Niners had won, I think the Niners won 13 games, if I'm not mistaken. Niners were the man. Put yourself in a situation of Steve Young, right? Steve Young was quarterbacking in that game, and on the sideline was a healthy Joe Montana. Think about the pressure from their point of view, right? Think about the pressure from their point of view. But there was one guy who made the difference in the game. It's sometimes it's one guy. And in modern times, I think it was Saquon Barkley for the Eagles. Yes, I understand they won a Super Bowl a few years prior. That was a kind of an unorthodox Super Bowl to win for the Eagles when they had Nick Foles. That doesn't happen too often. That everything came together for them. I think it just does not happen. What they did last year, the Eagles, that was impressive. I mean, that was beginning to end impressive. And I think Saquon was a missing piece. Back with the Cowboys, the missing piece was a absolutely batshit crazy player, none other than Mark Holmes' college teammate, bipolar probably. That's just game time, Brian. The the stories that are told, the reason why he was out The reason why he was out in San Francisco was George Seifert did not know how to handle him. Uh, the Carmen policy did not know how to handle him. He had a screw loose, people. He goes into the GM's office, pulls down his zipper, and urinates on the desk and says, "Get me the F out of here." Right? This is one thing I could appreciate about Jerry Jones. Fast forward, Jerry Jones makes the trade for Charles Haley. Jerry Jones makes the trade for Charles Haley. He's going from San Francisco, who's good, don't get me wrong, but it's a different amount of media and everything when you go to Dallas. It just is. When he gets off the airplane and is in the airport, Jerry Jones there's a mob of people, a mob of people. Jerry Jones is there to greet him, and Jerry Jones says the right thing. Yeah, Charles Haley, I won't turn my back on you. I got your back. I'll always be here to meet you. And I would say that I miss that Jerry Jones. I truly miss that Jerry Jones. The episode, they show you where they go hunting. Back in the Missouri, you see Jerry visit his father's grave. I wonder if Jerry's going to be buried there. I would imagine so. But I'm not positive, but I would imagine that's what's going to happen. You get to look behind the curtain a bit. That doesn't make what's going on any better. Like all my friends who hate Jerry and say he's senile, you are all right. You were all right. How I texted Mike Tag this. How you could watch that, how you could watch that and not come away with Jerry, what are you doing now? You saw what it took. Now, again, we got lucky with Jimmy Johnson. You know, you did the work and draft. I'm telling you, Dallas still drafts really good. Okay. But you're not going to get that haul anymore. You need to add to. Let's go back to the game. They added, and Steve Young and Jerry Rice basically says that the worst thing we've ever did, the biggest single mistake in the 49ers history was trading Charles Haley to Dallas Cowboys. Mark Holmes, his college teammate from JMU, James Madison University. He's got not one, not two, but many screws loose to this day. But without Charles Haley, we don't win. Just another little piece to the puzzle that you add to the story that makes it unfriggin' believable. Again, things fell in place. There wasn't like there wasn't adversity, because there was adversity. Troy Aikman, going into year 4, didn't want to be there because of what happened to the year prior. So they go through the year and they get to the championship game. Now, let me set the stage. It's the championship game, not the Super Bowl, against the unbelievable football 49er team. Jerry Rice, Steve Young, Ricky Waters. I mean, it goes on and on. Ronnie Lott. It's just Bill Romanowski, stud. He's got a screw loose, but you need a screw loose you need at least one guy on that defense, on your defense, in order to be successful. You just do. I don't know that I think Micah Parsons is close to being that guy with a screw loose. That's why you can't win with a bunch of choir boys necessarily. You need a nasty dog. You just do. You just do. So let's fast forward. I'm going to wrap this video up. Dallas Cowboys were at a quandary. You have Jerry Jones on the sideline in a muddy day. You had Jimmy Johnson before the game. Jimmy Johnson before the game was out on the field inspecting. If you guys remember, they replaced the sod in between the hashes for the whole football field. It was a mess. But Jimmy documented, and they show you the diagram. They have a diagram of a football field. Bad. You're good between this and this. There were circles. He was better prepared than George Seifert going into that football game, where it was good, where you had footing, where it was bad, where you didn't have footing. It was a knockout, drag-out dogfight. Steve Young in the video says that is the single most physical game. He was in more pain after that football game than at any game he'd ever played in his NFL career. And he had gotten hurt for the year. He said it was a physical football game for 60 minutes. Okay? For 60 minutes. And again, from the transition from Landry to the catch to the Niners dominating the 80s. Now we're at the beginning of the 90s. Niners have kind of moved on to Steve Young. They still had the best receiver ever to lace him up, Jerry Rice. And we were at the pinnacle. We were at the point of what is going to happen here. Okay? Knockout, drag out. I think it was 10-10 at halftime. There comes a spot in the game where Dallas is driving, right? Dallas is up 24-13, believe it or not. I believe that's what the score was. Or no, 20. Yeah, I think it was 24-13. I think Dallas was up. Put in the comments if I'm wrong. And Jimmy Johnson, it's 4th and 1. Jimmy Johnson decides to go for it. There's like 7 minutes to go in the game. You kick a field goal there, you go up 2 touchdowns, right? Long story short, Emmett comes up short. Ball goes back to the 49ers, and what do you think happens? Bill Romanowski says they thought it was a slap in the face. What are you doing? Kick the field goal. Kick the damn field goal. Not Jimmy Johnson. He wanted to put the kill shot in right then and there. And I could appreciate it. Anybody that has any second guesses, you're a fraud. It's the mentality that ultimately wins you a Super Bowl, and that was the right mentality at the right time. It's not like it was a tie game. You did have a lead. Well, Steve Young, Ricky Waters go right down the field. Jerry Rice touchdown. Boom. 24-20 with 4 minutes left to go in the game, and the crowd's going nuts. We've seen this time and time again. All season, the Niners have come back and have won these football games. They have 13 wins coming into this game. Niners are the best team in the NFL. We were at a point that we were in with the Niners with a young Montana and a Dwight Clark. Were we going to take over the mantle, or were we going to lose and just kneel before Zod and let the Niners go? Well, I didn't know this. Michael Irvin, I was trying to get him on the show. Now, that close. We'll see. We'll see. Stay tuned. Michael Irvin, basically in the huddle, right? They were like, well, what do you want to do? Norv Turner's like, well, I've seen this far too often. Like the playbook is the run. You know what I mean? Punt the ball away and let your defense. Hopefully you get the first down running the football, but you don't want to pass. Because if you pass, that's a minute. If you pass and throw an incomplete, that's a minute of the game that you allow to stay on the clock. There are times to do that, but against this special of a football team in the 49ers, who have just answered, right? All the momentum is with the 49ers. 4 minutes is a lifetime. They draw up a play to run a slant. Jimmy Johnson says, because of the notes he took prior to the game, this is where the bad footing of the field is. We want to throw a slant to that part of the field. The difference was Michael Irvin was tired he wanted the ball. And they had run the play multiple times. So unbeknownst to Jimmy Johnson, Michael goes to Alvin Harper's position, and Alvin Harper goes to Michael's position, right? And Aikman is looking at it, and he goes, oh, my God. Jimmy's on the sideline saying, what are we doing here? He thought that they were confused. No, Michael wanted to be the guy. He thought he was going to be the guy, but he didn't really know what Jimmy Johnson knew about the footing and where the ball should go and what he was communicating. And Troy Aikman literally said this as he's walking to the line of scrimmage, to call the play. He is like, am I really trusting? Again, this is probably the game. If you incomplete the ball there, that's a minute. I mean, the Niners are going to cut your throat. That's what's going to happen. They're going to beat you. They call the slant. He goes, am I really going to trust this slant to Alvin Harper, not the playmaker? That is a quandary if I'm Troy Aikman. Everybody wants to talk about Troy Aikman. Okay. Now, prior to that, coming out of the halftime, just to go back for a second because I missed this spot. Coming out of the halftime, it was a 10-10 game. And this is where Jimmy Johnson said, we're going to run it, we're going to run it again, and we're going to run it again. And they ran it right down their throat. The reason why they got the lead was because of Emmitt Smith pounding it down your throat when you knew it was coming and you couldn't stop it. That's the type of football that teams who win do. That's the type of football that the Eagles did last year. We are miles away from that type of football right now. But at this point, Aikman's at the line of scrimmage, up 4 points at his own 20-yard line. He drops back. The cornerback slips that's covering Alvin Harper. As Jimmy Johnson said, the cornerback will slip. He's giving you some space. The safety's depth was horrible. Alvin Harper catches a short slant, runs the length of the field, gets knocked out, I believe, at the 4 or 5 yard line. For all intents and purposes, the game is over. The relief by Jerry Jones, whose fortune is hanging on by a thread. Now, he had recouped some money, but still, if you lose that game and you do not go to the Super Bowl, that's everything. You may not get there again. That's why I always say, when you get there, you got to win. When you get to the Super Bowl, even though the Buffalo Bills were good, the Niners were far better than anybody up until this point. Alvin Harper goes 70, 75 yards, something like that. 73 yards, 75 yards. Gets out of bounds at the 5 or 4 yard line. And I remember the play like it was yesterday. It was over at that point because now you could run, you could drain the clock. You were going to get points. A pass to Kelvin Martin where he barely breaks the end zone. Touchdown, Dallas Cowboys. And that is where the torch was not handed off. It was taken from the 49ers and handed back to the Cowboys. Literally almost a decade, not like just literally a few years later. The team of the 80s handed it back in the beginning of the 90s, and the Cowboys, we know what happened. We will cover the rest of the episodes, but episode 3 of America's Team, the Gambler and his Cowboys, was absolutely phenomenal. I get it, people. I get all the hate. I'm not watching it. It is a reminder that anything can happen as far as being a football fan. It is a reminder that hard work and hiring the right people and doing the right things, cutting the right people can still happen. Is it a long shot? Sure it is. Jerry has lost his way. But make no mistake, that's what was the beginning of the dynasty of the 90s. We'll cover the falling apart of the dynasty. I would highly recommend any young person to watch it, to understand the mentality behind what I went through as a Cowboy fan. And I went from the low of losing Super Bowls to the 80s of nothing to the 90s of, oh my God, win. Oh my God, Jimmy Johnson is gone. Win again. Okay, in 1995, Super Bowl 30. Again, I know more than anybody of the pain that people are going through. But watch it. It was a great watch. I ain't gonna lie. I was texting Mike Tagg. I got goosebumps. And I know people are pissed about the current state of the Cowboys. We got time to talk about this year's Cowboys. Different game, different era, different football. Just the way you can't do nowhere near the things you did. The amount of abuse that Troy Aikman took in his career with the Dallas Cowboys was absolutely insane. Just at the hands of the NFC East. Okay, just at the hands of the NFC East. So I hope you guys like this. Me sharing my experiences regarding watching it, growing up as a Cowboy fan. Again, I don't know what the future holds. Jerry's is no spring chicken. I wish Jerry could watch this and either hand the torch to somebody or step aside. That's not going to happen. So we're going to live through it and we're going to talk about it. But all right, everybody, that's it. Incredible. America's Team, The Gambler, and his Cowboys. Episodes 1, 2, and 3. Again, the Candlestick Park was an absolute disaster. Dallas ends up winning the game. The final score does not indicate the game itself. 30-20. Dallas won 30-20, but it was a victory that really started the dynasty of the 90s. But Aikman, prior to that season, won it out of Dallas. Incredible, incredible, incredible. Emmitt Smith went on. One of the funniest things was Emmitt basically said to Irvin, the first thing he said when he got to Dallas is, I want to be the NFL's rushing champion. Mind you, with an offensive line that was not good, that it took coaching to turn around that offensive line. There was also Rans and castaways, Nate Newton, and Mark Tuinei, and Mark Stepnoski. It was just a bunch of guys who hadn't gotten the job done. Does that sound familiar? Guys who didn't get the job done at other teams came to Dallas with good coaching and got the job done. Stay tuned for that. But that's it from me. That's it for this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I'm telling you, go watch it. Go watch it despite Jerry Jones. He already got his money for making the Netflix, for being involved in it. But the stories and the unseen footage is pretty darn incredible. And at the end of the day, the only thing I really got to say is, how about them Cowboys? Yeah! Late.